Hello, everybody. I'm here midweek. My special tribute to my favorite episode of Raw. That video will be coming this weekend. It's done. I finished it. It's really weird having a video in the can, ready to post, but it's all done, ready to go. It's just going to be posted this weekend. I just wanted to make sure I got this video up first, just to give any final, updates, thoughts, feelings, blah 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 about everything else that's going on right now. But before I get into wrestling, I do want to talk about some of the stuff that was unveiled and revealed and covered at Comic-Con this weekend, and obviously being on the East Coast, going all the way to San Diego is not much of an option for me, so I obviously wasn't there, but obviously, I got all the updates and everything, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of interested for that came out of there. Obviously, and from what I heard, this was debuted at Comic-Con. Thomas Jane, who played the Punisher in 2004, unveiled a 10-minute short where he plays the Punisher again, and it's just the Punisher being the Punisher, basically. The short's called Dirty Laundry, and from what I heard, Thomas Jane paid for it and filmed it, financed it all on his own, just to show that he's expressing interest in playing the Punisher again, and the short was great. It was everything that I liked about the 2004 Punisher film, which I think is vastly underrated. I really appreciated that Dirty Harry, Death Wish, old school revenge flick approach that they kind of took with it. And I mean, it has its cheesy moments, but overall, I really liked Thomas Jane in the role, and I really liked their more simple, grounded approach. It felt like an old Western at times. Just a simple gunfight, no CGI or flipping through the air or anything like that, which is one of the reasons why I didn't even bother watching Warzone, because I saw the trailer and I saw the Punisher doing the Matrix flips through the air with his guns and everything. I'm like, ruined it. It's not the same. Ruined it. And but Thomas Jane, he can still play the Punisher, and hopefully, I don't know who has the rights to make the Punisher films. Hopefully, Marvel Studios gets it. I hope they get everything. I hope they get Spider-Man. I hope they get X-Men. Although X-Men First Class was very good, and I'm looking forward to the sequel to that. But I would love for Marvel Studios to just get everything and then do all the fucking crossovers. It would be awesome. But I would be totally in favor of another Thomas Jane Punisher film, because he was my favorite Punisher. Out of the 3 Punisher films, he was by far my favorite. So I'd be totally open to that. And I'm going to post a link in the description to the short, just so you can all judge for yourselves and see if I'm right. Obviously, Iron Man 3 was a big attraction. I'm really looking forward to that. Marvel Studios right now can do no wrong. Every movie they've made has been good. I even like the Incredible Hulk movie, and a lot of people were kind of down on it, but I really like that as well. And obviously, the Avengers was such a success. I'm like, all right, Marvel Studios, you can do whatever you want. You want to make an Ant-Man movie, you want to make Guardians of the Galaxy with Rocket Raccoon or whatever, you can do whatever you want. Just go right ahead. And you have my support and faith, because you've shown that you can do these projects with class and justice and everything else. But yeah, I think Iron Man 3 is going to be great. Mandarin's the villain. We all knew that was coming. And hopefully we get an epic conclusion, or an epic entry into the Iron Man series. I don't know if they plan on stopping at 3. They probably don't. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark is one of the best casting decisions of all the comic book based films ever made. I mean, they struck gold with that one, so they'll probably ride that as far as they can take it. And that kind of leads me into talking and me praising Marvel Studios. That kind of leads me into talking about DC, and they don't have their own film studio. And right now, all they have as far as films go that I trust is Nolan Batman. And Dark Knight Rises is coming out this weekend. Very excited for it. It's going to be awesome. But it ends this weekend. That'll be the end of Nolan Batman. And after that, it's kind of like, well, shit, what do they got? Because they tried Green Lantern. They couldn't do that. Superman Returns was a piece of shit. The Wonder Woman pilot failed. I mean, DC really, in as far as live action movies or TV shows or whatever, they really don't have anything right now that proves to me that they can get anything going. And here the Marvel's doing the fucking Avengers, which was an epic crossover, and it was awesome. And that leads me to believe that, well, they can do anything. I'm probably going to see Rocket Raccoon in a movie before Wonder Woman or The Flash. Strange, but there we go. So once Nolan Batman's done, it makes me like, well, shit, I mean, what do you got? And the only major project right now, and I'm still very, very unsure about it, is The Man of Steel, which is the Zack Snyder Superman movie. And I swear to God, if this movie is bad, And so far the things I'm seeing are looking good. They're showing they showed a teaser at Comic-Con, and that same teaser is going to be put in front of The Dark Knight Rises. I'm really interested in seeing it because I want to see Superman done justice, because I can't live with another bad Superman movie. I really can't. We haven't had a good one since 2. And that was made in 1980. I mean, just God. I can't deal with another bad Superman movie. So I hope this movie's good. So far, everything's looking good. I like Amy Adams being cast as Lois Lane. I think she's... I love Amy Adams to death. She's just a total sweetheart. I'm not a fan of them using General Zod as the villain, because we saw it in Superman 2, but whatever, I'll go with it. Just make it good. I'm begging with you, I'm pleading with you, just make it good. I can't deal with another bad Superman movie. So hopefully Man of Steel turns out well. I'm holding out hope. And if they can prove to me that they can do Superman right, hopefully that'll open the doors to, they'll want to reboot Batman again and create a Batman that can fit in the world of Superman, so they can eventually do a crossover there. Because they're going to want to do a Justice League. It'll totally be ripping off the Avengers, but that's something that they should be interested in doing, and they've kind of got to start from scratch with it, because, so far Green Lantern was a bust, and Superman's... kind of in limbo right now. It depends on how this new movie goes, and Batman's future is uncertain after the Nolan movies are done, so they've got their work cut out for them to really gain my trust again. If you told me 10 years ago, who would you rather see in a movie, Thor or the Green Lantern, I would have told you Green Lantern. It's like, Thor, who wants to see that? Now it's like, Thor 2? Fuck yeah, sign me up for that. Green Lantern? Go to hell. And that's just the way it is right now, unfortunately. But hopefully Man of Steel turns out really well. And that leads me into another major announcement that was made at Comic-Con regarding a future film project that really, again, has me excited and has me interested, but at the same time, I'm very skeptical about trusting it, because I've been hurt before. Apparently, they screened footage, test footage, of a new American Godzilla film. And if you don't know by now, I am a huge Godzilla fan. I grew up watching those movies as a kid. I remember watching the movie marathons on the Sci-Fi Channel before they became siffy and stopped showing Godzilla movies for some reason. I remember every year they'd have a Godzilla movie marathon. It was like an annual treat. I had all the films on VHS, have most of them on DVD now. It's just something that I loved as a kid, and I cherish it, and I love it, and it's campy, good, fun, cheesy goodness. But in the back of my mind, and especially when films like Batman '89 started coming out, when the Tim Burton Batman movie first came out, and I was 4 years old when that movie came out, it really took my perception of Batman, which the only perception of Batman I had up to that point were some cheesy cartoon shows and the Adam West Show. So it took my perception of Batman and really elevated it into something much grander. And that's what the Burton film did. And if you don't remember the Burton film, that movie was fucking huge back in the day. You couldn't walk down the street without seeing the bat signal. And then a few years later, when Jurassic Park came out, I was like, okay, we're getting to that point where it's time to do a Godzilla movie. Like a really big, epic, dark, no bad dubbing, no man in rubber suits, cheesy special effects. Just get to making a really big budget, really mainstream Godzilla film and really take Godzilla to the next level. Because I love that character. I love the King of the Monsters, and I love the idea of giant monsters beating the shit out of cities. And I think you can do something grand and epic with it. The 1954 Japanese version of the original Godzilla film, I think, is actually a horrifying film in a lot of ways. Obviously it's dated due to special effects and everything like that, but the subject matter that they cover and the way they present it, I think is actually kind of terrifying. And I think it's a film that was really ahead of its time. And I want that kind of presentation for Godzilla, but updated for a modern audience. And when Jurassic Park came out, I was like, okay, now's the time. Now's the time to really do it. And when TriStar started marketing their Godzilla movie, their American Godzilla film, I was excited. The marketing campaign was brilliant. It was just like the '89 Batman film. You couldn't walk down the street without seeing some sort of advertisement for Godzilla. I remember New Year's Day, they did that ad where the ball's dropping and Godzilla's tail just knocks the ball down. And it was the marketing campaign for that movie was nothing short of brilliant. And I was getting excited. I'm like, oh, I'm finally going to get the Godzilla movie that I want. Of course, had I realized that Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin were hacks, had I known that at that age, I was a young teenager back then, I wouldn't have been as excited for the movie. But a lot of people have those movies as like, oh, that was the worst theater experience I ever had. That was the most disappointing film ever. For some people, it's Star Wars Episode 1. I never wanted that movie, so I wasn't upset by it because I have the original trilogy. I didn't want or need that film. Some people say it's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I don't think is as bad as people say it is. I think at the very least, I think it's as good as Temple of Doom. And Temple of Doom had a lot of problems with it. It's nowhere near as good as the other two, but that goes without saying. Some people say it's Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I don't know why anybody would think that movie was going to be good. If it's a Nickelodeon Studios film and M. Night Shyamalan is attached to it, you had to know it was going to be a piece of shit, but people were disappointed anyway. I mean, the cartoon show is great, but I knew the movie was going to suck. And there's a slew of comic book movies where people feel that way. It's like I remember I never saw Green Lantern, but people told me they went to the midnight show. And he's like, dude, the worst part about it was seeing all the Green Lantern fans and how disappointed they were. Like you could just feel their sadness just generating in the audience. And so everybody has a movie like that. For me, it was the TriStar Godzilla. I went into that so excited, so hyped, so pumped. I saw it, and I walked out, and I thought, I don't know what the hell I just saw, but that wasn't Godzilla. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't Godzilla. I don't know how a 200-foot-tall monster can hide in New York City, and why Godzilla runs away from the military and gets shot down on a bridge by conventional weapons. It was just, they took... somebody said that they took the god out of Godzilla, and that's basically what that movie did. Had it not been called Godzilla, it would probably have a cult following now. It would probably be remembered as just a silly summer blockbuster and nothing more than that. But the fact that it had that name attached to it raises certain expectations, and it didn't meet any of my expectations. I didn't mind the new design. That's one thing that I will defend, because I feel like the Godzilla that you see in the Japanese movies, he only looks the way he does because it's a man in a rubber suit. No dinosaur would have a humanoid-esque body with opposable thumbs. So I didn't mind the new design. I thought it looked very dinosaur-like, and I thought it was recognizable enough to Godzilla. But the movie was a piece of shit. They totally got the character wrong. Why is he pregnant with raptor babies? And why did they rip off Jurassic Park? It was such a disappointing experience. And because that experience was so bad, I'm very skeptical about trusting this new Godzilla film. But apparently the footage they showed was amazing. That footage hasn't leaked online yet. I can't wait to see it. I'm really excited to see what it looks like. And apparently the director, I forget his name, Gareth Edwards, who's an indie director that's really fought for this project and is really passionate about it, is apparently everybody walked away from it feeling like the movie's in good hands. So hopefully when we get this Godzilla movie, hopefully it delivers, and hopefully I get the movie that I always wanted. Because that was definitely the headline that caught my eye at Comic-Con. Because, there have been rumblings about a new Godzilla movie, but it seemed like it was one of those films like Ghostbusters 3, where it's just in production hell, and I was just kind of like, until something more concrete comes out, I won't get too excited about it. But, yeah, that's the stuff that happened at Comic-Con. And that's enough of my non-wrestling discussion. But, yeah, a lot of stuff happened at Comic-Con, and it got me really excited, so I thought I'd talk about it just for the sake of doing it. Money in the Bank happened this weekend, now that we're getting back into wrestling discussion. I saw it. I'm going to go over it briefly. It has some of the same problems that recent WWE pay-per-views have had, like random bonus matches being thrown out there that don't mean anything, and because they don't mean anything, people don't care about the people involved, and because people don't care about the people involved, you're not making them feel like special attractions. And, some people have said, well, the main events are the only things that draw. But where do your future main eventers come from? They come from that IC title level. They come from that tag team division. That's where Brett, Shawn, Austin, Rock, Triple H, all of them, most of them anyway, they mostly came from like IC or tag team or both. And they came out of programs in those areas that felt really important and felt like major attractions. So that logic makes no sense to me. And the world title, the real main event was Punk and Daniel Bryan. Didn't close the show. I don't know why. They just feel like the show has to close with Cena winning and going, bah, bah, bah. And, we all knew Cena was going to win that match. Even when they added Miz to it, I was like, that's not going to change a goddamn thing. Cena's going to win. We all know Cena's going to win. And sure enough, he did. And I would have much rather had Punk and Bryan close because that was the more unpredictable match. I didn't know what was going to happen, and it was guaranteed to be a great match. It was a great match. The major highlight of this pay-per-view. But those presentation problems aside, the Money in Bank matches themselves were at least action-packed. I'll say that. I thought Sheamus and Del Rio was a very boring match, but, whatever. And like I said, Punk and Bryan was a very good match. I thought very, very good match. Better than their Over the Limit match, I would say, because it had more of a story behind it, so it was more, I was more involved with what was going on. It did this time. It didn't feel like they were trying to make something out of nothing. So overall, Money in the Bank, I will say, was an enjoyable pay-per-view. It was certainly better than the last two. It didn't feel like as much of a mess as the last two, but they still got a lot of kinks to work out on their pay-per-views. So that's that. And we've got Raw 1000th episode coming up. Like I said, my tribute to my favorite episode of Raw is coming this weekend. Hopefully you all like that video because it took me a while to actually finish it and get around to actually completing all the editing that went into it and everything. But yeah, a lot of stuff. It looks like they really loaded up the show with a lot of attractions. We got Daniel Bryan and AJ getting married. I'm not a fan of wedding angles, but we'll see how that goes. People seem to really be digging AJ right now, so I guess it's not a surprise that they would go that route. There's going to be a DX reunion, and I expect X-Pac, Road Dogg, and Billy Gunn to show up. I wonder if Chyna will show up. Now, that would be a shock. It won't happen. I'm just kidding. But, yeah, what I would do there personally is just have Lesnar kill them all. Like, really, that's what I would do. Because, you don't need to protect X-Pac, the Outlaws, and Shawn Michaels anymore, right? I mean, they're not wrestlers. You don't need to protect them. So just have Lesnar just destroy them. I think that would be great. Great way to tie into his story with Triple H. The new GM is going to be announced. I think it's going to be Ric Flair. That's just a guess on my part, which, oh boy, Ric Flair back on wrestling television, that's not something that I'm tired of at all. But I don't really care who's in charge of the show. I've said that before. I think that's just a tired angle. I'd rather they just said the board of directors were running the show. I really would, and just let them run the show, and we never see them. That would be my preferred method of doing it. We've got, I mentioned Brock Lesnar. And the things that really interest me on this show, the things that I'm genuinely interested for, there's going to be a lot of legend returns on a lot of nostalgia stuff. And that stuff is fine for a pop, but it doesn't really add anything in the long run. What I'm interested in is Brock Lesnar's response to Triple H and their interaction. Because this will be the first time we've seen Brock since the night after Extreme Rules. So that'll be really cool, and it'll actually have some importance in setting up a SummerSlam match. The Rock, who last time we saw him, he said he was going to go for the WWE title. So he's going to have some role to play, I would think, in the Punk and Cena match. Which, by the way, I totally called that with Cena. I think I said he was going to cash in at SummerSlam, so I was wrong in that aspect. But I totally said that he was going to come out and say, CM Punk, you better get ready. I'm going to cash it in when you're good and ready. And so yeah, that happened. I think Cena's going to win the title just because that has to happen. The title only matters if Cena's holding it. And I forgot this with Money in the Bank. I am happy for Dolph that he won. Like I said, I've been a fan of Dolph for years now, before anybody else was. I don't mean to sound snobby by saying that, but I really did like him before they even started pushing him. I still think the world title is stupid, and there's no reason for it to exist. But if it has to exist in WWE's mind, at least put it on the guy that I like the most. So meet me halfway and do that. So put it on Ziggler, and I'll be at least somewhat interested in it. So there's that. And yeah, but I am interested in seeing what The Rock does and how they address him going for the WWE title. I think that'll be interesting. I think that's fascinating. And, you'll probably going to get a lot of guys. I'm sure Austin will show up. I'm sure Undertaker will probably play a role. Probably all the guys that made returns during the weeks leading up to Raw will probably show up at some point. Roddy Piper will probably be there. So it'll probably be a very nostalgia-filled show. And I'll have a lot to comment on next week. But that's all I have for now. Like I said, my tribute to my favorite episode of Raw is coming this weekend. I'll probably post it on Saturday. And look forward to that. I'm doing my question after next week. After I review the 1000th episode of Raw, I'm going to get into my question and answers video. So wrestling-related questions and non-wrestling-related questions, send them to me on my YouTube account. Just label the message Q&A so I know what you're talking about. And I will get around to that the week after next. And I think that's it. I'm sure all of you who watches these videos are probably at least a little bit like me, and you'll probably go see The Dark Knight Rises this weekend. So enjoy that. I think it's going to be awesome. I think it'll be better than the Spider-Man movie, which I didn't care for much at all. And I'll probably explain in another video why I didn't like the Spider-Man movie, but that's another video for another time. But yeah, so enjoy The Dark Knight Rises. I'm sure it's going to be awesome. I hope the Man of Steel footage that shows before the movie gives me hope that the Superman movie is going to be good. And I will see you all. You'll see my next video this weekend, but I will see you all next week. And hopefully, the 1000th episode of Raw goes really well, and I'll see you all later.